do frogs have to do with productivity? Hey, stay tuned. Mark Twain once said that if you eat a live frog, do it first thing in the morning, and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. The eating the frog strategy is a prioritization and productivity method used to help people identify really hard to do tasks. So, what does it mean to eat the frog? Put simply, it's a process of really identifying your most difficult task of the day and completing it before you do any other work. If you have to eat two frogs, eat the bigger one first. Identify which task is more challenging and do that thing first. Does eating a frog really work? Well, it doesn't sound delicious unless you're into frog legs, and those are actually pretty tasty. It does help people get things done, and here's how it works. First, it sets you up for success early in the day. It focuses solely on completing one task for the day, and that's it. Then, after that, you've completed your most challenging task. You have the rest of the day to complete all those smaller tasks on your to do list without the dread of having to do the hardest thing on your list hanging over your head. Getting the hardest thing out of the way can get your intrinsic motivation rolling and allow you to tackle the rest of the tasks during the day. For people whose chronotype is a daytime chronotype, it takes advantage of your most efficient working hours. Scientists have found that people's speed and accuracy completing tasks is better in the morning. But that, again, it implies that you're a day person rather than a night person. For the morning person, the daytime chronotype, your break is at its peak performance in the morning. So why not do your most challenging work when you're at your very best? Use this energy to tackle the most difficult thing on your to-do list so you can get it the attention that it deserves. And that way you don't have to worry about doing those difficult things when you're tired or inattentive at the end of the day. So let's take a quick moment to just ask you to do me a favor. The YouTube algorithm is not treating this site well, and it really helps for you to leave a comment or thump that like button. So I'd ask you, if this is useful for you, please do that. Getting back to why eating the frog works first. This promotes deep work. Eating a frog requires intense focus, unless, of course, you're at a French restaurant and it's on the menu. The strategy encourages you to choose the most difficult task of the day and do it first thing in the morning. This doesn't mean responding to emails or checking any of a variety of social media things. Eating the frog helps you minimize multitasking so you can focus on just the frog. Everything else can come later. So how do you identify frogs? If you have a hard time prioritizing your do list, and many people do, understand what is a frog and what is not. The best way for you to tackle your work, here are a few tricks in figuring out what the big task of the day is. Frogs are important, but not necessarily urgent. Frogs are tasks that make a positive impact on the rest of your workday and your team. Think about the tasks that help you make progress on your team strategy, on your personal strategy, and they move you forward to an endpoint. Small reactive tasks such as answering email, responding to Slack messages, or filing reports, they're necessary. We have to do them, but they aren't frogs. These tasks often feel really urgent, but most of the time they can wait. If you're having trouble smaller tasks getting in the way of focus time, again, try blocking out that time to work on true frogs. This strategy can help you carve out deep focus time so you can eat that frog early on. Frogs often require more time than other tasks. Typically, you're going to look at more than an hour. The perfect size frog is anywhere between 1 and 4 hours. If your frog is taking more than 4 hours to complete, it's time to break that task down into smaller, usable bites. This is a strategy that also can help with time management. Half your day is focused on eating that frog, and the other half is spent on tasks and meetings and emails. The thing about frogs is they often have a lot of resistance to doing them. No one wants to eat a live frog first thing in the morning. This holds true for any task you identify as your frog. For whatever reason, you may be facing some mental resistance toward doing that task. Boy, that highlights what exactly this frog may be. It could be that the task is just plain mentally challenging. It could be something that's just not your favorite thing to do. An example of one of my personal frogs was getting my taxes ready to go to my accountant. And this is a task that made me feel like sticking a fork in my head. It was awful. Not my favorite thing to do, but it was best to get that out of the way early in the day so I didn't have this nagging and hanging over my head. Maybe you're feeling some pressure to complete the work, which causes procrastination. There's usually something about certain tasks that make them a little harder to get done and more likely to be things that we procrastinate on. These tasks are most likely your frogs for the day. So, some tips on eating frogs. Frogs are best eaten in a habitual way. If you constantly are taking on your biggest tasks for the day, it actually becomes easier. Each frog you eat is a small part of a larger goal. And by the time you've eaten 100 frogs, you can look back and see how much progress you've made. I find it best to not plan my frogs too far in advance. Practice planning out what your frog is for the next day, the day before. That way you go into the day knowing exactly what you're going to work on. Eat that frog first thing in the morning. Save the tastier French cuisine frogs for later in the day or evening. Frogs are mentally challenging, as we've said. They're hard to get through, and that's why people are more likely to gravitate toward procrastination when it comes to frog. The point is to beat the temptation of procrastination, which for the ADD person is kind of our middle name. Just getting the difficult task right away really takes that pressure off you in a big way. Again, if this has been a helpful video for you, share it with people who can use it as well. It's a good holiday present to share with those people and help your networking. The other thing is, please do thump that like button, and better yet, leave a comment. Until next time, this is G.H. Glade for Everyday ADD Coaching. Take care.